My name is Maya Parker, and I'm 32 years old. The day my parents called me a burden and slammed the door in my face, they had no idea I was carrying $3 million in my bag. Well, not the cash itself, but the proof of it. A single envelope that would change everything between us. They threw me out in front of the neighbors, humiliated me on their doorstep, and told me I was nothing without a job. What they didn't know? I'd just inherited my grandmother's entire estate. And what I did with that money, specifically what I bought, left them speechless when the truth came out. This is a story about family, respect, and what happens when you finally stop begging for approval and start setting boundaries instead. Before I tell you exactly what happened, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy this story. I'd also love to know, where are you listening from, and what time is it there? Drop a comment below. Now let me take you back to that day. It was a Tuesday morning when everything fell apart. I'd lost my job 3 hours earlier. 8 years as a software engineer, gone in a single meeting. Budget cuts, they said. Nothing personal. But it felt personal when I walked out of that building with my box of desk supplies and nowhere to go. My apartment lease was ending in 2 weeks. I had savings, sure, but not enough to feel secure. So I did what I thought any daughter would do. I drove to my parents' house and asked for help. The house sat on a quiet street in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. I parked in the driveway, grabbed my backpack, and walked to the front door. My hands were shaking as I knocked. My mother opened the door. Her expression didn't soften when she saw me. "What do you want, Maya?" "I lost my job today." My voice came out smaller than I intended. "Can I stay here for a while, just until I find something new?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she turned her head and called into the house. "Richard, your daughter's here." My father appeared behind her, arms crossed. He looked at me the way you'd look at a solicitor trying to sell you something you don't need. "No," he said flatly. "You're just a burden now." The words hit like a slap. "We can't have a jobless daughter living here," my mother added, her voice cold and practical. "What would the neighbors think?" I glanced to the side. Mrs. Chen was watering her roses across the street, her head turned just slightly in our direction. She was listening. "Please," I whispered. "I just need a little time." "You need to get your life together," my father said. "We're not running a charity." And then he closed the door. I stood there for a moment, frozen. Mrs. Chen pretended not to notice, but I saw her glance over. The humiliation burned through my chest. I turned and walked away. They had no idea what was in my bag. I wasn't always the daughter they rejected. Growing up, I was the good kid. Straight A's, honor roll, full scholarship to a state university for computer science. I graduated with honors, landed a job at a solid tech company, and worked my way up for 8 years. I thought I was doing everything right, but it was never enough for them. When I was 25 and paid off their car loan, $12,000 I'd saved over 2 years, my father's only response was, "Took you long enough." No thank you, no acknowledgement. When I was 28 and helped them cover 3 months of mortgage payments during my father's early retirement, my mother said, "You're single with no kids. What else would you spend it on?" Every family dinner became a comparison game. Sarah next door just got promoted to VP. The Chen's son bought his parents a vacation home. "When are you going to give us grandchildren?" I was never Sarah, never the Chen's son, never enough. The only person who ever made me feel valued was my grandmother, Dorothy. She'd immigrated from Taiwan in her 20s, built a small chain of laundromats from nothing, and saved every penny. She used to tell me, "Maya, you're worth more than their approval. Don't ever forget that." She passed away 2 months ago. The funeral was small. My parents complained about the cost of flowers. I cried alone in the back row. What I didn't know then, what no one knew, was that Grandma Dorothy had left a will. A very specific will. And she'd made sure her lawyer would contact me directly, not my parents. That envelope arrived the morning I lost my job. I hadn't opened it yet when I knocked on my parents' door. 1 week before I lost my job, I'd made the mistake of accepting a dinner invitation. My mother had called. "Come over Saturday. We're having the Rodriguezes." I should have known better. Anytime my parents invited neighbors over, it was a performance, a chance to show off. Or in my case, a chance for them to explain why I wasn't worth showing off. I arrived at 6. Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez were already there, sitting in the living room with drinks. My parents greeted me with tight smiles. "Maya, you remember the Rodriguezes," my mother said. "Their daughter just made CEO of her marketing firm." "That's wonderful," I said, shaking their hands. We sat down to dinner. Within 10 minutes, the comparison started. "So, Maya," Mrs. Rodriguez said kindly, "your mother tells me you work in tech?" "Yes, I'm a software engineer," my father cut in. "She writes code. It's very technical." He said it like I fixed printers for a living. "When are you going to settle down?" my mother asked, passing the salad. "You're not getting any younger." I felt my face flush. "I'm focused on my career right now." "At least get a promotion," my father added. "Your job sounds so ordinary." Mr. Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. Mrs. Rodriguez gave me a sympathetic look. I tried to explain what I did. Back-end systems, database architecture, but my father waved his hand dismissively. "No one understands that stuff anyway." The rest of the dinner was more of the same. My mother bragged about the Rodriguez's daughter. My father lamented my lack of ambition. I sat there, invisible, shrinking with every word. When I left that night, I sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying not to cry. I left that dinner knowing something had to change. I just didn't know how soon. After my parents closed the door in my face, I sat in my car for a long time. The engine was off. The street was quiet. Mrs. Chen had gone back inside, but I could still feel the weight of her gaze, the neighborhood's silent judgment. I thought about what would happen if I just accepted this, if I drove away, found a cheap apartment, and pretended this day never happened. I'd still be the failure daughter, the one who couldn't keep a job, the one who wasn't married, wasn't successful, wasn't worth their time. Every future family gathering would carry this moment with it. Every conversation would have an undercurrent of disappointment. I'd spend the rest of my life trying to prove I wasn't a burden, and I'd never succeed, because the problem wasn't me, it was them. My grandmother's voice echoed in my memory. "Never let anyone make you feel small, Maya. You're a lion, not a lamb." I reached into my backpack and pulled out the envelope. It had arrived that morning, right before I got the call to come into the office. I'd shoved it in my bag, planning to open it later. The return address was from Harrison and Associates, the law firm that handled my grandmother's estate. I tore it open. Inside was a letter, printed on cream-colored paper. I read it once, then again, then a third time, just to make sure I wasn't imagining it. "Dear Ms. Parker, we are writing to inform you that you are the sole beneficiary of Dorothy Chen's estate, valued at approximately $3 million. $3 million. My hands were shaking. I could walk away and let them win, or I could show them what a burden really looks like when she stands up. I kept reading. The letter explained that my grandmother had updated her will 6 months before she passed. She'd left specific instructions. The money was mine. No strings, no conditions. But there was a handwritten note attached, in her shaky cursive. "My dearest Maya, use this to live the life you deserve, not to feed those who don't value you. You were always my lion. Show them your roar. With all my love, Grandma." I pressed the note to my chest and let myself cry. Not sad tears, angry tears, relieved tears. Tears that had been building for years. When I was done, I pulled out my phone and searched for the law firm's number. Mr. Harrison answered on the second ring. "Mr. Harrison, this is Maya Parker. I just received the letter about my grandmother's estate." "Ms. Parker, yes. I'm so sorry for your loss. Do you have questions about the distribution?" "Actually, I need your help with something else." There was a pause. "I'm listening." "My parents are renting a house on Maple Street. I want to know who owns it and if it's for sale. Another pause. May I ask why? Because I want to buy it. I see. His tone shifted, more cautious now. Ms. Parker, I need to ask, is this a decision you've thought through carefully? Yes. Real estate transactions involving family can become complicated. I understand. He was quiet for a moment. Then, the property is owned by a Mr. Peterson. I happen to know he's been considering selling. He's relocating for health reasons. I could reach out discreetly. Please do. And Mr. Harrison? I don't want them to know it's me. Understood. I'll be in touch. I hung up and stared at my parents' house through the windshield. I wasn't going to humiliate them. I was going to teach them a lesson they'd never forget. 3 days later, I sat across from Mr. Harrison in his downtown office. He was younger than I expected, mid-40s, graying at the temples, with kind eyes and a firm handshake. The office smelled like leather and old books. Ms. Parker, thank you for coming in. He slid a folder across the desk. I've reviewed your grandmother's estate. Everything is in order. The funds will be transferred to your account within 2 weeks. Thank you. Now, regarding the property on Maple Street, he opened another folder. I spoke with Mr. Peterson. He's willing to sell for $420,000. That's slightly below market value. He wants a quick, clean sale. I nodded. I can do that. I'll handle the transaction through a trust. Your name won't appear on any preliminary documents. Mr. Peterson will sell to the trust, and you'll be listed as the trustee. Your parents won't know unless you tell them. Perfect. He leaned back in his chair, studying me. May I speak candidly? Please. Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She built something from nothing, and she was very protective of you. She mentioned you often. My throat tightened. She was the only one who ever believed in me. She wanted you to have security and freedom. He paused. This purchase, I assume it's about more than real estate? It's about respect, I said quietly. They made me feel worthless. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it so they understand what they did. He nodded slowly. Then let's make sure it's done right. Legally. Cleanly. That's all I want. Good. I'll draw up the papers. I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing it for respect. 1 week after I signed the initial purchase documents, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. Hello? Maya, it's your mother. Hi, Mom. No. How are you? No. Are you okay? Just. The neighbors keep asking about you. Mrs. Chen saw you leaving last week. It's embarrassing. I closed my eyes and counted to 3. Embarrassing for who? For us. People are talking. My father's voice came through in the background. Tell her to find a job and stop making us look bad. Did you hear that? My mother asked. I heard. Well, have you found anything yet? I'm working on it. Working on it isn't good enough, Maya. You're 32 years old. You should have your life together by now. Do you even care how I'm doing? She sighed like I was being difficult. Of course we do. But you need to get your life together first. We can't help you if you won't help yourself. I never asked for your help. Then why did you come here? Because I thought... I stopped myself. Never mind. My father's voice again, louder now. Is she crying? Tell her we don't have time for drama. Something inside me snapped. I have to go. Maya. I hung up. My hands were shaking, not from sadness, from rage. I opened my email and found the message from Mr. Harrison, sent that morning. Purchase finalized. You are now the owner of 447 Maple Street. Congratulations. I stared at the screen. They had no idea. That was the last time I let them hurt me with words. 2 weeks after my parents slammed the door in my face, I became their landlord. Mr. Harrison called me on a Thursday afternoon. Miss Parker, the transfer is complete. You're the official owner of 447 Maple Street. I'm sending the deed and all documentation to your email now. Thank you. There's one more thing. Mr. Peterson's lease with your parents expires in 30 days. You'll need to decide whether to offer them a renewal. I will, but on my terms. Understood. I'll draft a new lease agreement. Standard market rate? Yes. No special treatment. I'll have it ready by next week. When I hung up, I sat in my car outside a coffee shop and opened the email. There it was, the deed, with my name in bold letters. Maya Parker, owner. I drove to Maple Street. It was late afternoon, the sun casting long shadows across the lawns. I parked down the block and walked slowly toward the house. It looked the same as it always had. White siding, blue shutters, a small front porch where my mother kept potted plants. Through the living room window, I could see my father sitting in his recliner, watching television. My mother moved past in the background, carrying something. They had no idea the person who now controlled their home was standing 50 feet away. I felt a strange sense of calm. This wasn't about revenge. This wasn't about hurting them. It was about showing them, showing myself, that I didn't need their approval to have power. I didn't want their house. I wanted them to understand what it feels like to be powerless. And soon, they would. I ran into Mrs. Chen at the grocery store 2 days later. She was examining avocados when she looked up and saw me. Her face brightened. Maya, how are you, dear? I'm doing well, Mrs. Chen. How are you? Oh, you know, same old, same old. She put an avocado in her basket. I heard you moved out of your parents' place. Word traveled fast. Yes, I'm staying somewhere else for now. She nodded, her expression sympathetic. Your mother mentioned you'd lost your job. That must be very difficult. Of course she did. It was a surprise, I said carefully. But I'm managing. Mrs. Chen studied me for a moment. You look different, Maya. Stronger somehow. I smiled. I've learned a lot recently. About what? About standing up for myself. She tilted her head, curious. Good for you. Too many young people let others walk all over them. She paused. Your parents seemed upset last week. Is everything okay? Things aren't always what they seem, Mrs. Chen. She raised an eyebrow. That sounds mysterious. Let's just say some changes are coming. Changes? You'll see soon enough. She looked like she wanted to ask more, but I smiled politely and excused myself. As I walked away, I could feel her watching me. Good. Word travels fast in small communities, and I was counting on it. By the time I reached my car, I'd already decided. It was time to bring everything into the open. No more secrets, no more hiding. I pulled out my phone and called my mother. Mom, I want to talk. Can we meet at Rosewood Restaurant this Saturday? I have something important to share. My mother's voice was immediately suspicious. Why there? Why not at home? I'd like to do this properly, in a neutral space. What's this about, Maya? I'll explain on Saturday. Can you both be there at 2 o'clock? I heard muffled conversation. She was talking to my father. Fine, she said finally. But don't expect us to give you money. We're not. I don't need your money, Mom. Silence. Then what do you need? I'll see you Saturday. I hung up before she could argue. Next, I called Mr. Harrison. Can you attend a family meeting on Saturday? I'm going to tell them about the house. Are you sure you want to do this publicly? I want witnesses, not for drama, for accountability. I understand. I'll be there. Then I made 2 more calls, one to Mrs. Chen, one to Mr. Rodriguez. I kept it simple. I'm having a small family gathering at Rosewood on Saturday. I'd really appreciate it if you could come. I have some news to share. Both agreed, curious but polite. By Friday night, everything was arranged. I'd reserved a private corner at Rosewood, big enough for 6 people, visible enough that other diners could see us but not hear every word. I spent Friday evening going over what I'd say. I practiced in front of the mirror, keeping my voice calm and steady. No anger, no tears, just facts. I pulled out the deed and the new lease agreement. I put them in a manila envelope and set it on my kitchen counter. Tomorrow, my parents would learn the truth. And I would finally, set the boundaries I should have set years ago. Saturday arrived cold and clear. I got to Rosewood Restaurant 15 minutes early. The hostess led me to the corner table I'd reserved. It was round, with 6 chairs, positioned near a window overlooking the street. Perfect. I set the manila envelope on the table in front of me and ordered water. Mrs. Chen arrived first, smiling warmly. Maya dear, thank you for inviting me. Thank you for coming. Mr. Rodriguez came next, shaking my hand. Good to see you, Maya. You look well. Thank you, Mr. Rodriguez. Mr. Harrison arrived exactly on time, carrying a leather briefcase. He nodded at me and took the seat to my right. Then my parents walked in. My mother saw the group and her face tightened. My father's expression was somewhere between annoyed and confused. What is this? My mother asked, sitting down stiffly. A conversation, I said calmly. Who's he? My father nodded toward Mr. Harrison. This is Mr. Harrison. He's a lawyer. A lawyer? My mother's voice rose slightly. Maya, are you in some kind of trouble? No. He's here to help clarify some things. Mrs. Chen and Mr. Rodriguez exchanged glances but stayed quiet. My father cleared his throat. So what's this about? We don't have all day. I took a breath. The restaurant hummed with quiet conversation around us. Silverware clinked. Someone laughed at a nearby table. I wanted to talk about our relationship, I began. My father cut me off. There's nothing to talk about. You need to get a job and stop wasting our time. Mrs. Chen frowned. Mr. Rodriguez shifted uncomfortably. I looked at Mr. Harrison. He nodded. It was time. I tried again. I wanted to talk about how you've treated me. My mother sighed dramatically. Here we go. When I came to you 3 weeks ago, I'd just lost my job. I was scared. I needed support. And we told you the truth, my father said. You need to stand on your own 2 feet. You called me a burden. Well, what else would you call someone who shows up with no job and no plan? Mrs. Chen's mouth fell open slightly. Mr. Rodriguez looked down at his hands. That's a bit harsh, Linda, Mrs. Chen said quietly. My mother turned to her. You don't understand. She's been a disappointment for years. No husband, no children, barely keeping her job. We can't keep being embarrassed by her. The words hung in the air. I felt the familiar sting, but this time, something was different. I wasn't shrinking. I wasn't apologizing. Is that really how you see me? I asked. What else is there to see? My father said. Mr. Rodriguez spoke up, his voice firm. Richard, that's your daughter. I know who she is. Then maybe you should treat her like it. My father's face reddened. This is a family matter. You made it public when you threw her out in front of the neighborhood, Mr. Rodriguez said. My mother looked flustered. We didn't throw her out, we couldn't help her. You didn't even try, I said softly. Because you're a failure, my father snapped. The table went silent. I looked at Mr. Harrison. He nodded. It was time to show them exactly what kind of failure I was. I placed my hands flat on the table. My voice was steady. I want to share something with everyone here. What now? My father said. More excuses? No. The truth. I reached for the manila envelope and opened it slowly. Inside were 2 documents. I pulled out the first one, a letter from the law firm. 2 months ago, Grandma Dorothy passed away. My parents nodded impatiently. We know. So what? She left a will. We know that too, my mother said. What does this have to do with anything? She left me her entire estate. I paused. $3 million. The table went completely silent. My mother blinked. What? $3 million, I repeated. Grandma left everything to me. My father's face went pale. That's not possible. She would have told us. She didn't want you to know. I slid the letter across the table. Mr. Harrison can confirm it. Mr. Harrison nodded. It's all legal and properly documented. Ms. Parker is the sole beneficiary. Mrs. Chen gasped softly. Mr. Rodriguez leaned back in his chair, eyebrows raised. My mother stared at the letter like it might bite her. Why would she do that? Because she knew how you treated me. I kept my voice calm. She knew you measured my worth by my job title and my relationship status. She wanted me to have security and freedom. My father's hands were shaking. This is ridiculous. It's not, Mr. Harrison said. The estate has been fully transferred. I looked at my parents. You called me a burden, but burdens don't inherit millions. Burdens don't have power. I paused. But that's not all I need to tell you. Before I continue, I want to pause for just a moment. If you're listening to this story and it's touching something in your heart, maybe because you've experienced something similar, or because you believe everyone deserves respect, please leave a comment below. Share your thoughts. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? What helped you get through it? I read every single comment, and I'd love to hear your story. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing. It really helps me keep sharing these stories. Now let's see what happened next. I pulled out the second document. I also used part of that money to buy something. My father's eyes narrowed. Buy what? The house you're living in. For a moment, no one moved. Then my mother laughed. It was a sharp, disbelieving sound. That's ridiculous. We rent from Mr. Peterson. You did rent from Mr. Peterson, I said. He sold the property 3 weeks ago. To who? To me. The color drained from her face. Mr. Harrison reached into his briefcase and pulled out a copy of the deed. He placed it on the table. Mr. Peterson sold the property to a trust managed by Ms. Parker. The sale was finalized 2 weeks ago. She is now the legal owner of 447 Maple Street. My father grabbed the document and read it, his hands trembling. My mother leaned over his shoulder, her lips moving silently as she scanned the words. Oh my God, Mrs. Chen whispered. Mr. Rodriguez sat very still, watching my parents' faces. You bought our house? My mother stammered. Yes. Why would you do that? Because I could. My father slammed the deed down on the table. This is insane. You can't just— I can, I said calmly. And I did. But why? I leaned forward. You called me a burden. You threw me out in front of the neighbors. You told me I was nothing without a job. My voice was steady, but there was steel in it. I wanted you to understand something very important. I paused. Burdens don't own property. Burdens don't have power. I do. My mother's hands flew to her mouth. You can't kick us out. We have nowhere to go. I'm not kicking you out. She blinked, confused. You're not? No. My father's voice was hoarse. Then what do you want? I took a breath. I want you to understand what you did to me. The restaurant felt very quiet, even though conversations continued around us. 3 weeks ago, I stood on your doorstep and asked for help. I was terrified, humiliated, and you looked at me like I was garbage. My voice cracked slightly, but I pushed through. You didn't ask if I was okay. You didn't offer a hug. You called me a burden and shut the door in my face. My mother's eyes filled with tears. We didn't mean— Yes, you did. I cut her off gently. You meant it enough to say it. You meant it enough to hurt me in front of Mrs. Chen and anyone else who was watching. Mrs. Chen looked down at her lap. For years, I've tried to earn your approval, I continued. I worked hard. I paid your debts. I showed up to every dinner even when you spent the whole time comparing me to other people's children, and it was never enough. My father opened his mouth, then closed it. I'm not here to destroy you, I said. I'm here to teach you that love isn't conditional on success, that your daughter's worth isn't measured by her job title or her relationship status. Mr. Rodriguez nodded slowly. You owe her an apology, he said to my parents. My mother wiped her eyes. Maya, I'm sorry, I really am. My father looked at the table. We were wrong. Thank you, I said quietly. That's all I ever wanted to hear. I wasn't finished. You can continue living in the house, I said. My mother looked up, hopeful. We can? Yes, but there will be a new lease. My father stiffened. What are the terms? Mr. Harrison pulled out a document and slid it across the table. Standard residential lease, market rate rent, 1-year term with option to renew. My father scanned it. This is $1,200 a month. Peterson only charged us $900. Market rate, Mr. Harrison repeated. That's $300 more than we're paying now. That's what the property is worth, I said. No special treatment. My mother's voice was small. Maya, we can't afford. You'll have to budget differently, just like I had to budget when you refused to help me. Mr. Rodriguez cleared his throat. That seems fair. My father glared at him but said nothing. There's one more term, I said. Respect. My mother frowned. Respect? Yes. You will treat me with the same respect you expect from me. No more insults, no more comparisons to the neighbor's children, no more making me feel small. I pulled out a pen and placed it on the lease. If you violate this, if you belittle me, if you call me a burden, if you treat me the way you've treated me for the past decade, the lease terminates, immediately. My father stared at the document. You're serious? Completely. Mrs. Chen smiled slightly. Good for you, Maya. My father picked up the pen. His hand shook as he signed his name. My mother signed below him, tears still streaming down her face. Mr. Harrison collected the lease. This is legally binding. Any violation, and you'll have 30 days to vacate. My father nodded stiffly. I looked at my mother. I'm not asking for your approval anymore. I'm asking for basic human decency. And if you can't give me that, then this conversation is over. My mother looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Respect. Mr. Harrison placed the signed lease in his briefcase. I'll file this on Monday. Your first payment is due on the 1st of next month. My father nodded, still looking shell-shocked. My mother reached across the table toward me, then pulled her hand back. Maya, I need you to know, we really are sorry. I believe you. We were scared, she said. When you showed up without a job, it reminded us of when your father got laid off years ago. We were terrified. We didn't handle it well. My father cleared his throat. We took it out on you? That was wrong? It wasn't a perfect apology, but it was real. Thank you, I said. Mrs. Chen dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Maya, you handled this with so much grace. I don't know if I could have done the same. Mr. Rodriguez nodded. You stood up for yourself without being cruel. That takes real strength. A woman at a nearby table glanced over, clearly curious about our group. I caught her eye and she quickly looked away. I didn't need you to grovel, I said to my parents. I needed you to see me as a person, not a trophy to show off or a failure to hide. My mother nodded, wiping her eyes again. Can we? She hesitated. Can we start over? Not start over, I said. But we can move forward with boundaries. I can live with that, my father said quietly. Mr. Harrison stood. I think we're done here. Ms. Parker, I'll be in touch early next week. Thank you, Mr. Harrison. He shook my hand and left. The rest of us sat in silence for a moment. Then Mrs. Chen spoke. Maya, would you like to come to dinner next week? I make a wonderful pot roast. I smiled. I'd like that. Over the next few minutes, the conversation shifted. Mrs. Chen started talking about her own daughter, who lived across the country. I used to push her so hard about getting married. I thought I was helping. But after hearing your story, Maya, I realize I was just making her feel inadequate. Mr. Rodriguez nodded. My son dropped out of medical school last year. I was furious. I didn't talk to him for months. He paused. I called him last week and apologized. Your story made me think. I'm glad, I said. My mother listened, her face flushed with embarrassment. I always thought we were good parents, she said quietly. We provided for you. We paid for your education. You did, I agreed. But love isn't just financial support, it's emotional support too. My father looked uncomfortable but didn't argue. Mrs. Chen reached over and squeezed my hand. You've given us all something to think about. Thank you for being brave enough to share this. Thank you for being here, I said. Mr. Rodriguez stood. I should get going. But Maya, if you ever need anything, a reference, a connection, anything, you let me know. I appreciate that. He shook my hand and left. Mrs. Chen gathered her purse. I meant what I said about dinner. Next Friday? I'll be there. She hugged me. A real hug, warm and genuine. And then she was gone. It was just me and my parents now. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Finally, my mother spoke. Can we give you a ride home? No, thank you. I drove. Okay. She stood slowly. We'll see you soon? Yes, soon. They left together, walking close but not touching. I sat alone at the table for a few more minutes, watching them through the window as they got into their car. The community I thought would judge me had actually become my support system. I paid the bill and walked out into the cool afternoon air. The street was quiet. A few cars passed. Somewhere nearby, a dog barked. I stood on the sidewalk and just breathed. For the first time in years, maybe in my entire life, I felt light. Not happy exactly, not triumphant, just free. Free from the weight of their expectations. Free from the constant need to prove myself. Free from the belief that I was somehow less than because I didn't fit their definition of success. I pulled out my phone and looked at the photo of my grandmother I kept as my wallpaper. She was smiling, standing in front of one of her laundromats, her arms crossed proudly. I did it, Grandma, I whispered. I roared. I could almost hear her voice. I knew you would, sweetheart. I always knew. I got in my car and sat for a moment, hands on the steering wheel. Through the restaurant window, I could see the table where we'd been sitting. The chairs were empty now, but I could still picture all of us there, the tension, the tears, the truth. I glanced in the rearview mirror and caught sight of my parents' car pulling out of the parking lot. They were talking to each other, my mother gesturing with her hands. For the first time, I didn't feel angry watching them. I didn't feel hurt. I just felt done. I didn't win because I had money. I won because I finally valued myself. I started the engine and drove away. But the story doesn't end there. If you've been following this story to this point, I want to ask you something. Do you think I did the right thing? Some people have told me I was too harsh. Others say I did exactly what needed to be done. I want to hear your opinion. Please comment below. Right if you support my decision, or wrong if you think I should have done something different. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future stories. Now let's see what happened after that day. 1 month after the meeting at Rosewood, my mother called. Her voice was different, softer. Maya, it's Mom. Can we talk? Just the three of us? I hesitated. About what? About everything. Please. I agreed to meet them at a coffee shop downtown, neutral territory. When I arrived, they were already there, sitting at a corner table with 3 cups of coffee waiting. My father stood when he saw me, something he'd never done before. Thank you for coming, my mother said. I sat down. What did you want to talk about? They looked at each other. Then my father spoke. We've been thinking a lot about what you said, about how we treated you. My mother nodded. We realized we were terrible parents in many ways. I stayed quiet, letting them continue. We were so focused on what the neighbors would think, my father said, on how you reflected on us. We forgot to just love you. My mother's eyes filled with tears. My parents were the same way with me, always comparing me to my siblings, always making me feel like I wasn't enough. She took a shaky breath. I swore I'd never do that to my children, but I did it anyway. We did it worse, my father added, because we knew how much it hurt and we did it anyway. I wrapped my hands around my coffee cup. Why are you telling me this now? Because you deserve to know, my mother said, and because we want to do better. Can you forgive us? My father asked. I looked at them, really looked at them. They looked older, tired, but also sincere. I didn't forgive them right away, but I listened, and that was a start. Word of what happened at Rosewood spread through the neighborhood faster than I expected. Mrs. Chen told Mrs. Rodriguez, who told the Johnsons, who told everyone at the community center. Within 2 weeks, everyone on Maple Street knew that I'd inherited millions and bought my parents' house. The reactions were mixed. Some people thought I was brilliant. Others thought I was cold. A few thought I'd gone too far. But something unexpected happened. People started talking about their own families, about the pressure they put on their children, about the conditions they placed on love. Mrs. Chen organized a parent support group at the community center. She invited me to speak at the first meeting. I almost said no. But then I thought about my grandmother, and I said yes. 15 parents showed up. I told my story. The real story, not the gossip version. I talked about what it felt like to never be enough, to have love used as a weapon instead of a gift. A mother in the back row started crying. I think I've been too hard on my son. He's gay and I haven't accepted it. I keep pushing him to change. Another parent spoke up. I told my daughter she was wasting her life because she wanted to be an artist instead of a doctor. One by one, they shared their stories, and one by one, they started to see what I'd seen, that conditional love isn't love at all. After the meeting, several parents came up to thank me. You gave us permission to do better, one father said. My story wasn't just about me anymore, it became a mirror for others. And that, more than the money or the house, felt like the real inheritance my grandmother had left me. 2 months after the confrontation, I started a new company. I called it Lionheart Consulting, a name inspired by my grandmother's words. The mission was simple: help people set healthy boundaries with toxic family members. I offered free initial consultations. I connected people with therapists, lawyers, and financial advisors. I created workshops on emotional independence and self-worth. The response was overwhelming. Within the first month, I had 50 clients. By month 3, I had a waiting list. Most were women. Daughters who'd been told they weren't good enough. Wives who'd been controlled by in-laws. Mothers who'd been guilt-tripped into sacrificing everything. But some were men too. Sons who'd been pressured into careers they hated. Fathers who'd been cut off from their children by manipulative ex-partners. I helped them navigate difficult conversations. I helped them understand that setting boundaries wasn't selfish. It was survival. One woman, Sarah, came to me in tears. Her mother had been financially abusing her for years, demanding money, and then criticizing how Sarah spent what was left. Together, we created a plan. Sarah opened a separate bank account. She set a monthly limit on what she'd give her mother, and she practiced saying no. 3 months later, Sarah sent me a photo. She was smiling, standing in front of a new apartment she'd been able to afford because she'd stopped funding her mother's shopping addiction. You saved my life, she wrote. But I hadn't saved her life. She'd saved her own. I'd just shown her it was possible. This work, helping people find their worth, meant more to me than any engineering job ever had. Grandma didn't just leave me money, she left me a mission: to help others find their worth, and I was just getting started. 6 months after that day at Rosewood, my relationship with my parents had changed. They still lived in the house. They paid rent on time every month. My father set up an automatic transfer to make sure they'd never be late. They called me once a week. Not to criticize, not to compare, just to talk. "How's your business going?" my mother would ask. "Really well. I'm hiring an assistant next month." "That's wonderful, sweetheart." Sweetheart. She'd never called me that before. My father started asking about my life in ways he never had. "Are you happy, Maya?" "Yes, Dad. I am." "Good. That's all that matters." It wasn't perfect. Sometimes old patterns crept back in. My mother would start to say something about the neighbors, then catch herself. My father would open his mouth to give unsolicited advice, then close it. But they were trying, and that was more than I'd ever expected. We had dinner together once a month, always at a restaurant, neutral territory. We talked about safe topics, the weather, current events, my grandmother's old recipes. Slowly, carefully, we were building something new. Not the relationship I'd wished for as a child, but something real, something based on respect instead of obligation. "We're proud of what you've built, Maya," my mother said one evening. "We should have said that years ago," my father added. "It's never too late to start," I replied. And I meant it. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing peace over pain, one day at a time. I didn't forgive them all at once. Some days were harder than others. Some memories still stung. But I was learning that healing isn't linear, and that boundaries don't mean you stop loving someone. They just mean you start loving yourself too. Looking back on everything that happened, I've learned some things I wish I'd known years ago. First, money doesn't buy respect, but self-respect can create boundaries. The inheritance didn't make my parents value me. Setting clear, legal boundaries did. Second, family doesn't have the right to treat you poorly just because they're family. Love should never come with conditions, and if it does, it's not really love. Third, you can't change other people. You can only change how you respond to them. I couldn't make my parents see my worth, but I could stop waiting for their approval. Fourth, boundaries aren't selfish, they're self-preservation. For years, I thought setting limits with my parents would make me a bad daughter. I was wrong. It made me a healthy adult. Fifth, sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away. Not forever, necessarily, but long enough to remember who you are without their voices in your head. My grandmother understood all of this. That's why she left me the money with those specific instructions. She knew I'd need resources to stand on my own, to build a life that wasn't defined by my parents' expectations. But the real gift wasn't the money, it was permission. Permission to value myself, permission to demand respect, permission to roar. I think about her every day. When a client tells me they're scared to set boundaries, I share her words. "You're a lion, not a lamb." And I watch them transform. Just like I did. I didn't need their approval to be worthy. I was always worthy. I just needed to believe it myself. That's the lesson I carry with me now, and the one I hope to pass on to everyone who needs to hear it. Today, I'm sitting in my office, a small space downtown with windows that overlook the city. Lionheart Consulting has grown beyond anything I imagined. I have 3 employees now, and we're helping hundreds of people every month. My phone buzzes. It's an email from a woman named Jennifer. "Dear Maya, I just wanted to thank you. 3 months ago, I came to you because my family was destroying my mental health. You helped me set boundaries. You helped me find my voice. Last week, I stood up to my mother for the first time in my life. It was terrifying, but I did it. And I'm still standing. Thank you for showing me it was possible. You saved my life." I read the email twice, then save it in a folder I keep for moments when I doubt whether this work matters. It does. It always will. I look at the photo of my grandmother on my desk. She's smiling at me, forever frozen in that moment of pride outside her laundromat. "I hope I'm making you proud, Grandma," I whisper. I know she is. I can feel it. My phone buzzes again. This time it's my mother. "Dinner next week?" Your father wants to try that new Italian place. I smile and type back. Sounds good. Wednesday at 7? Perfect. Love you. Love you too. It's not the relationship I once dreamed of, but it's real, it's honest, and it's built on a foundation of mutual respect. I close my laptop and look out the window. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. If you're reading this and you've ever felt like a burden, know this. You're not. You're a lion waiting to roar. And sometimes, the loudest roar is a quiet boundary. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you in any way, I'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment below and share. Have you ever had to set boundaries with family? What helped you? Or if you're in a similar situation right now, know that you're not alone. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future stories. And remember, you deserve respect. Always. I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourself.